Hello everyone, and welcome to a brand new Tides of Lore! Yeah, we got a title for it now. Hi everybody. For those that didn't catch the last one and are like, what's a Tides of Lore? Tides of Lore is a sort of podcast thingy, sort of stream kind of thingy, where I take vague subjects from the Warcraft lore. Like last time we talked about Jaina is a Dreadlord, which was actually the subject is Jaina's a bitch. To which we talked about Jaina's character progression, what she did in the storyline, and how certain people come to certain conclusions. It's not a set-in-stone story, it's not based on any facts, it's more about trying to see like, what does the story bring, what kind of interpretation can you give a certain story, speculate, tinfoil hat, all that good stuff. So that's what you can expect with Tides of Lore. It's not set in stone, it's, last time with the whole Jaina thing, we got some massive discussions going on in the chat room. In the chat room and the comment section. And I freaking love that, right? Some people brought up more respectful than other people. But nonetheless, we had some, debate going on. We had some, little bit of lore buzz going on. And I love that. I love reading it. I prevented myself from diving into it. Because going into debates on the YouTube is most often not the best idea. But I still enjoyed very much reading it with you guys and girls, what you all had to say. So that was a lot of fun. So what we're gonna do this time, like this one is number 2. What I came up with is, I have heard the ancient wisdom. I have searched the scrolls far and wide, and I know the truth. My children, the Titans have a plan for us all. I've been waiting all day to do that one. But the idea is that the Titans have a plan, as in every story in Warcraft is connected. From the dawn of the existence of the Warcraft universe to current time, even into Legion and the next expansion and prophecies and all that. The Titans have a plan, the story is connected. And in this series, in this episode, I want to dive in as to why I think that, and what could possibly happen in the future, and what this plan might be. Now before we do all of that, we first need to talk about the Titans, of course. If it's the Titans that have a plan for us, then we need to talk about the Titans. So ladies and gentlemen, let me first start it off with, if I can set it up right, hang on, I need to set it up right. Plop, there we go, yay, it instantly worked! Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the lore of Titans and Old Gods. Now it's an oldie but a goldie. I hope you'll enjoy.
Hello everyone. Before we begin, let me tell you that the information about the Titans and the Old Gods is a little bit unclear. It sometimes changes depending on your source, but I'll try to tell you the global story. If any of my information is wrong, please don't hesitate to let me know in the comments below. Let's begin, shall we? It's uncertain how the Warcraft universe came to be. Some say that it was created by a single entity, while others believe that a catastrophic cosmic explosion sent the infinite worlds spinning out into the vastness of the Great Dark. What is certain is that out of creation, a race of Titans emerged. The Titans, their sole purpose is to bring order to the universe, stability to the various worlds, and ensure a safe future for the beings that will follow in their footsteps. They did this by traveling from planet to planet to shape the worlds. The Titans are led by an elite cult known as the Pantheon. You have Aman'Thul, High Father and leader of the Pantheon, Eonar, matron of all life, Norgron, Lorekeeper and Master Magician, Golganeth, the son of Aman'Thul and Eonar, Kaskarov, shaper and forger of the world, and Sargeras, the Titans' greatest warrior, defender of their worlds. Sargeras would later on betray the Pantheon and team up with the demons. His replacement is Akramar. So the Titans were on their crusade to bring order to the universe, and after a while the Titans found a little planet now known as Azeroth. And here the story changes depending on your source. There are sources that claim that the Titans themselves created Azeroth, others that say Azeroth was already there. There are sources that say Old Gods infected Azeroth after the Titans' arrival, others say that it was already infected. I'm going to go with the in-game version based on the Old Gods and the Ordering of Azeroth book. This version states that the planet Azeroth was already there before the Titans arrived. The Titans found the world to be infected with old gods, and the elements were waging war with each other. The elementals were led by elemental lords, and their names are Alakir the Wind Lord, Neptulon the Tidehunter, Ragnaros the Fire Lord, and Terrazane the Stone Mother. The old gods are pretty much the counterparts of the Titans. Where the Titans want to bring order to the universe, the old gods feed on chaos. It's uncertain as to how many old gods there are in the universe, but there are sources that claim that the old gods did not come from Azeroth, they simply infected it. The old gods are also not bound to Azeroth itself, since there have been sightings of old gods in Outlands. The Titans and the old gods fought with each other, and even though the elemental lords were powerful, even their combined might was no match for the Titans. The Titans defeated the elemental lords and banished them to the abyssal plains, where they will continue to do battle with each other. After that, they battled the old gods, and the old gods were one by one defeated. However, to their dismay, the Titans found out that killing an old god would mean the destruction of Azeroth. So instead, the Titans imprisoned them within the planet itself. This infection that prevented them from killing the old gods would later on be referred to as the Curse of Flesh. During the war between the old gods and the Titans, there is one old god actually killed and one Titan fell. It's uncertain if that means that the Titan was actually killed. Once the elements were banished to their planes, nature became peaceful again, and the Titans began their work of shaping the world. To help them with this project, the Titans created a couple of races. To help them carve out the earth, the Titans created the dwarf-like earthen from magical living stone. To help them dredge out the seas and lift the land from the seafloor, the Titans created the immense but gentle sea giants. For many ages, the Titans moved and shaped the earth, until at last there remained one perfect continent. Shaping and creating Azeroth took many ages, and the Titans discarded anything they didn't like to the now known Emerald Dream. The Emerald Dream is like the blueprint of Azeroth, the way Azeroth would be if no life would have changed the world. For example, in Azeroth there is the city of Stormwind, built by the humans. On the same location in the Emerald Dream you would see a forest. At the continent's center, the Titans crafted a lake. The lake, which they named the Well of Eternity, was to be the basis of life for the world. As twilight fell on the final day of their labors, the Titans named the continent Kalimdor, Land of Eternal Starlight. The world was created in the image of the Titans, but they knew that the old gods were still buried beneath the earth, so they decided to leave certain defenses and guardians behind in case the old gods would ever become a threat again. Best known are probably the 5 dragon aspects, who each were granted a portion of the Titans their power. These were Nosdormu the Timeless One, the massive bronze dragon chosen by Aman'Thul to guard time itself and police the ever-spinning pathways of fate and destiny. Alexstrasza the Lifebinder, the Red Leviathan chosen by Aeonar to safeguard all life on the world. Ysera the Dreamer, the Green Dragon and Alexstrasza's younger sister, chosen by Aeonar to watch over the growing wilds of the world from her realm, the Emerald Dream. Malygos the Spellweaver, Blue Dragon chosen by Norgannon as the guardian of magic and hidden arcanum. He would later on go mad and be replaced with Kalecgos. And finally, Neltharion the Earthwarder, aka Deathwing. The mighty black dragon chosen by Khaz'goroth and given dominion over the earth and the deep places of the world. Ironically, this connection to the world of Azeroth would cause Neltharion to go insane and eventually become Deathwing. Besides the aspects, there were also certain titanic structures and creatures like Ulduar and the jailers of Yogg-Saron. However, the Titans still wanted to make sure that the old gods would never become a threat again, so on top of these defenders they also left behind failsafe devices. For example, you had Loken near Ulduar, who upon death would send a message to Elgalon the Observer. Elgalon would then come down, scan the world, and if it indeed was infected, he would send a message to the Pantheon would destroy Azeroth and rebuild it. Later on in Cataclysm we found another similar device in the Halls of Lightning. Heroes, with the help of Bran Bronzebeard and Harrison Jones, were able to disable the device before Deathwing got his hands on it. If they didn't, it could have been used to destroy entire Azeroth. It makes you wonder though, why not kill all the old gods to begin with? Why let life exist on the planet if you're planning to destroy it anyways? I'll get back to that question in the speculation video. So the Titans left and let life on Azeroth evolve as they made their way to other planets in the universe. What happened next? Well, the funny thing is that if you backtrack nearly every story of Warcraft, you'll eventually find out that either the old gods or the Titans are its source. And with Titans, I also count Sargeras. Sargeras' story is an interesting one and I'll try to give you the short version of it, but it is important to know it. As I said before, he was the champion of the Pantheon, kicking chaos butt and defending the worlds the Titans created. However, at some point in time, before the creation of Azeroth, he fell into madness. He He felt despair as he saw how much the universe was fighting against the vision of the Titans, and this despair caused him to free the demons that he first fought against, eventually creating an army called the Burning Legion. He felt that the Titans themselves were responsible of creation's failure, and he set out to undo the work of the Titans. Sargeras and the Legion eventually became aware of the young world of Azeroth due to the Night Elves' reckless use of arcane magic, and Sargeras began to hunger for the limitless energies of the Well of Eternity. He manipulated Queen Azshara into creating a portal that would allow him to enter our world. This would have succeeded was it not for the Night Elves, aided by Cenaria's Woodfolk and Alexstrasza's dragons. They destroyed the Well of Eternity, causing the portal to implode and split the continent of Kalimdor apart, leaving behind the major continents and scattered islands that are known today. Those are Northrend, Kazan, the Eastern Kingdoms, Pandaria, and the remnants still referred to as Kalimdor. It is rumored that Queen Azshara made a pact with an old god as they fell into the sea. This pact would forever change her highborn into the Naga that we know today. The site of the Well of Eternity became a swirling vortex of power known as the Maelstrom, storm of chaotic energies, which continues to rage to this very day. The entire war would later be known as the War of the Ancients, but it wouldn't be the last time that Sargeras tried to conquer our planet. The second time he tried to do it by infecting the Guardian Aegwynn, waiting inside of her and eventually possessing her son Medivh. This caused the events of the Dark Portal and the first war between orcs and humans. However, Sargeras was discovered by Medivh's apprentice and they killed Medivh before Sargeras' plan succeeded. It's said that Sargeras is still out there waiting to make his return. To this date, it's still unclear how many worlds the Burning Legion has consumed. All the more impressive that our little planet Azeroth has been able to stand up against him. So a quick recap, Titans came, saw Azeroth, created in their image, left the Well of Eternity behind, and let life do its thing. After that, the Well of Eternity exploded, splitting the continent of Kalimdor into different pieces. Sargeras became evil, tried to take over our world, and we stopped him to do so. Next time we take a look at what we exactly know about the Old Gods.
And there we go. Next time we'll take a look at what exactly we know about the Old Gods. Well, not today. Not today, Noble of the Past. But it was very cute. Can you imagine that I sounded that cute back in the day? I wanna go back to that. I wanna be able to sound as cute as I did back then again. Like,
Sargeras and the Old Gods. They tried to work together, but they couldn't. Because, you know, Old Gods are not nice.
Anyways, this is the, the origin story of the Titans and the Old Gods, right? This is, or at least the Titans. This is how they came down, how they shaped Azeroth. It's uncertain if they came down twice or if they whatever. But the point of the story is, and let me grab my notes with this. Let me just go from the notes, otherwise I might forget about things that I actually want to say. So here we have the Titans, a race of powerful beings, godlike creatures that shape the world of Azeroth. Different sources state different things about the Old Gods. Some sources claim that the Old Gods were always there, while other sources state that they came after the Titans shaped the world. Doesn't matter, it disregards for the storyline. What is important is the bit of information about Sargeras. Like, imagine that you're like these godlike creatures that can bestow power over life, bestow power over time. Because the aspects, Nosdormu, Alexstrasza, Malygos, they all got their powers from the Titans. So it's not hard to imagine that the Titans, if they can grant these powers, they too have these powers. So imagine you're like this godlike form, you're chilling in wherever the Titans are chilling, and suddenly your champion, Sargeras, comes up to you, and he's like, yo brother, I don't know anymore. Twisting Nether, Darkness Beyond, it's mentally breaking me apart. I'm just gonna skip the accent. It's just, the universe is fighting back against our plans of order. Maybe order is not the way to go. If the universe puts up such a fight, then perhaps chaos is the way to go. So, Sargeras came to his brothers. They couldn't convince him that their way was the right way, that the Titans' path of order was the right way to go. So Sargeras, he went away, he fell to despair, and eventually he would form the Burning Legion, and he would work against the Titans, their plans of order. Now, if you're a godlike being, right, and you have powers over time, which we know, or at least we can assume, imagine for a moment that you're going to see what Sargeras is going to do, what kind of damage he can do to the universe. Even Velen has received a visit, or a vision of what Sargeras was going to do if he would have joined them. You see that happening and you're like, okay, we the Titans, we can't really, start fighting with him. We can't really match him in power, perhaps. Or perhaps there's some sort of code that prevents the Titans from fighting each other. Or perhaps there is a way to, they're both creatures of logic, of reason. Perhaps they needed to find a way to break that circle, to break that chain, to find a race that was possible to think outside of the box and become a weapon for them. What if they envisioned, like, okay, this is what Sargeras is gonna do, we need to get our own little chess pieces on the board, we need to work against our brother, and we need to play the long game. It's not going to be said done in 1 year. This is going to take a very long time, and we need to get an army ready to fight against Sargeras. Is that everything what I wanted to say? It is. Now, as we're going to talk about the Titans, how they created their army, how they placed their pieces on the chessboard, Sargeras did not stand still. Sargeras also tried to recruit more people into his Burning Legion. He paid a little visit to a certain planet. And this story is best told within the story of Velen and the Draenei. Now, somebody in the chat room asked me, like, can you tell us how long it takes? Because we want to know the live version. This one takes around 6 minutes and 30 seconds. So just a heads up. And let me just set it all up. Hopefully I can... Oh no, not so fast. I wasn't ready yet. There we go. Hopefully I can get it ready. And then we can put it like here and here and here. Are you gonna work? I hope so. Here we go. Enjoy.
Hello everyone. The story of Velen the Prophet and his Draenei is a very long story. He and his people have been around for quite a while, so I might not be able to get all the details in, but I'll sure as hell try. The story begins around 20,000 years ago, and to put it in perspective, the Well of Eternity didn't explode until around 10,000 years ago. Give or take a few years by now. The Draenei called themselves Eredar back then, and in the time they lived on the planet named Argus. Their leaders were called Archimonde, Kil'jaeden, and Velen the Prophet. Now these three, they were not just leading together, they were like soul brothers, man. They were so evolved that they could communicate and share visions with their minds. And yeah, they were just very, very close. And Velen was the only one with the gift of sight. Now one day on the planet of Argus, they received a visit from Sargeras. He found great potential in the Eredar and he promised them the universe. Worlds to explore, people to adore them, knowledge from far and wide just for them to study. All they had to do was pledge their loyalty to Sargeras. Now Kil'jaeden and Archimonde, they were directly on board with this plan, but to Velen, something didn't quite feel right. He went to the Atamal crystal, a gift to his people from a time long forgotten, and he meditated about this. At first he saw the same vision as Sargeras had promised them, but then the vision changed to show his true plans. In this real vision, Velen looked at himself and the others, and he saw that they were transformed into horrific beings. The loving people that would follow them changed into demonic beings of the twisting nether. Worlds were aflame and the Burning Legion conquered them one by one. With this knowledge, with this truth in his mind, he went back to his brothers, but Archimonde and Kil'jaeden, they were already sold. They didn't put much value in Velen's visions, and even so, they simply didn't care. Velen realized that if they would pledge their loyalty to Sargeras, then the universe would fall. So desperately he prayed for help and received an answer from the Naru, specifically the Naru named Kur. The Naru, beings of light and dead set on stopping the Burning Legion, told Velen to gather as many as he could. To help him with this task, Velen asked his trusted friend Talgaf to help him, and yeah, they gathered on a hill and they waited for rescue. In the meantime, Velen had taken the Atamal crystal with him, the Naru had told him to do so, and in the distance he could see Talgaf. The crystal warned him that what he saw was not the truth, and in reality Sargeras had already begun with transforming the Eredar into Manari. Manari is the Eredar word for something twisted, unnatural, tainted by foul magic. Was it not for the crystal, Velen would not have seen the betrayal until it was way too late. His corrupted brothers and sisters slowly made their way towards the gathered group, and desperately Velen called to the heavens. And the heavens responded. A bright light hit the Atamal crystal and separated it in 7 individual crystals, all with a different color. A shield was formed around Velen and those that he had gathered, and above them a ship appeared. The Naru had kept their word, and they told Velen to bring the 7 crystals with him, for he would surely need them. Just in time, the Eredar managed to escape the planet, and from that moment on, they would call themselves Draenei, also known as Exiled Ones.
The Naru have not forgotten us.
Kil'jaeden took this betrayal of Velen very personal and he swore that he would find him, even if it took 1,000 years. And so the chase was on. The Draenei would run, Kil'jaeden and the Burning Legion would follow. Every time they came close, Velen would be warned, or one of the crystals would allow Velen and his people to escape in time. It's not explained what happened to the planets that they left behind, but it's not hard to imagine that the Burning Legion conquered them. This went on for a very long time, until around 200 years ago, the Draenei had to make a crash landing on the planets they would call Draenor. For some reason, the Naru named Kur had fallen ill, so they couldn't use the ship anymore and they were stuck on the planet. It was Tolgaf who found the Draenei again and he told Kil'jaeden. This time Kil'jaeden had a better plan in mind. Instead of going in with his full force with the might of the Burning Legion and just to see the Draenei escape again, he decided to use another race that lived on Draenor. He decided to use the Orcs. He manipulated them into becoming a fighting force known as the First Horde. This also included offering the blood of his servant Manoroth, which gave the Orcs incredible powers but also made them slaves. When the attack started, the Draenei were pretty confused. Before this, they weren't exactly allies with the Orcs, but they had been trading with them. There was even a moment where they saved the lives of 2 of these Orcs, and one of those Orcs was the father of Thrall, Enels named Durotan, and the other was Orgrim Doomhammer. When Velen figured out what was going on, that Kil'jaeden was behind it, he tried to make peace with the Orcs. He ended up in front of Durotan and told him that he wanted to take them all to Oshugan. Oshugan was actually the ship that the Draenei crashed with, but over the years had become a sacred place to the Orcs. When Naru fall ill or enter their death cycle, they enter a cycle called the Void, where they unwillingly suck up all the light that they can, including the souls of the departed. The Naru Kur had befriended the souls of the departed Orcs and he had inspired the shamans of the Orcs to take care of him. That made this place very sacred to the Orcs, and when Velen told them that this was because of the Draenei and the Naru, well, that pissed them off. Imagine that the one that you are told is your enemy, the Draenei, is now telling you that your most sacred place is because of them. They weren't exactly happy with that. In fact, they were very insulted, and it took everything Durotan had to keep his people from murdering Velen on the spot. His orders were to deliver Velen to Ner'zhul, but because of their past, because the Draenei saved his life, and because he didn't exactly trust Ner'zhul, he decided to let Velen go. This action did not stop the Horde from marching on. It was their mission to kill every Draenei they could find, and near the end they were corrupted by fel magic, they were corrupted by demon blood, all kinds of vile things. The war would come to a conclusion with a final assault on Shafra city. The Draenei had made a plan to leave enough of their people behind so that Velen and some of the others could flee to Zangarmarsh and live another day. This pained Velen greatly because leaving his people behind is not something easy to do, but the Naru assured him that he and his people had to survive. They still had a role to play in the army of light against the Burning Legion, so they had to survive. The Orcs, they sacked the city. The Draenei who stand behind sacrificed their life, and their plan went as good as they hoped. Kil'jaeden believed all the Draenei to be dead, and he left the Orcs to their fate. The planet of Draenor was all but destroyed, the use of fel magic had corrupted the land as much as it had the Orcs, food and water was becoming a rare thing, and all of this led to the first Orcish invasion of Azeroth.
Yeah, man. That Velen the Prophet, yo. Velen. Velen knows what's up. Velen knows how to lead his people in the city of Shefrev. Velen knows what's up. But notice, like, the key element that I wanted to get out of this story. Notice how Sargeras showed up, and Velen and the people had the Atamal crystal to make contact with the Naru and get the frick out of the planet. Right? That's how it went. The origin of the Atamal crystal is not explained, so you can pretty much give your own explanation to it. What if the Titans, in all their glory and wisdom, knew that Sargeras one day would show up on the planet of the Eredar, and they made sure that the Eredar not only had a way to get out of there, but also a way to escape and escape and escape, until, coincidentally, the Naru Kur fell ill, made a crash landing on Draenor, and voila! Orcs, Horde, invasion of Azeroth. It's all connected, it's all in the grand scheme of things, it all has a plan. Do you all feel your tinfoil hats yet? Are we blowing minds yet, or is everybody like, nah, I don't care? That assumption from Kil'jaeden was stupid. What if 2 of them were out picking berries and shit? I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, like the Atamal crystal is, the origin is unexplained. So my theory is that the Titans actually placed it there and gave it to the Draenei, as in, yeah. you know, they got a way to escape, and they got a way to start the whole Orcish invasion. Now, what else did I want to talk about? Let me check my notes. Blah, blah, blah. Origin of the Ultimate Crystal. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah. Now, you might say that, you know, the invasion of Azeroth is a very negative thing. And, of course, all the lives that were lost because the demonic Orcish horde went in and slaughtered nearly everybody. That was no picnic. But at the same time, we ended up with a very strong faction, the Alliance of Lordaeron. We ended up with Wonderboy Thrall and the Horde. We ended up with a very strong force in the world that kept these two forces going, that kept the Alliance and Horde going, and, you know, a great defense force ready whenever it's needed. Now, before we dive into part of that story, though, like, before we dive into the whole the Alliance of Lordaeron and versus the Horde and whatnot, I wanted to talk about the events that took place on Azeroth before that moment, because the War of the Ancients was not the only time that they tried to take the planets, but the Burning Legion has showed up on Azeroth as well to try and conquer it. And that story is best told within the story of Archimonde. So right now, keep in mind, we got Sargeras came to his Titan brothers, explained that he didn't know the vision, couldn't help him, long game, Ultimate Crystal, Velen and the Draenei on Draenor, invasion of Azeroth, and this is what happened on Azeroth. Let me get it up. Let me get it up, yep. Let me just get this video ready to go. This is the story of Archimonde. It's around 14 minutes long for those interested. Let me see if it's instantly gonna work. No, of course not. There we go. There's like a number in it.
Hello everyone. The story of Archimonde does not begin with Archimonde.
No, that's not what I wanted you to do, you bastard. The story of Archimonde does not begin. There we go. Here we go. Look at that. Look at that beautiful being. Look at that. Enjoy, ladies and gentlemen.
Himself. It begins with the Titans and Sargeras. The Titans had a mission to bring order to the universe. They shaped the worlds, they created life, and took out those who were against their vision. The Titans were led by the Pantheon, and their champion was called Sargeras, and his task was defending their mission against the darkness of the universe. He imprisoned countless of demons, dreadlords, and all kinds of evil creations. He performed this duty for thousands of years, but over time he began to doubt. If the universe was supposed to be all about order, then why was it fighting the Titans so much? Why was there so much evil and chaos in the world? Was that perhaps the way it's supposed to be? He talked with the other members of the Pantheon about this, but they couldn't help him. They weren't able to convince him of the truth of their mission, and Sargeras left the Pantheon. The corruption within himself, the doubt and despair, they started to manifest on the outside. Great flames burst forth out of his body, and Sargeras decided that the Titans' their mission was folly. That order was not the way to go, and that chaos was the only truth of the universe. His mission was no longer to protect the work of the Titans, quite the opposite. His mission became to destroy their work. In order to do that, he would need an army, so he made his way to the demons that he had imprisoned and he set them free. The demons, in return, were more than willing to join his army, and the Burning Legion was created. Sometime after this, Sargeras found a planet called Argus, and on this planet were very powerful beings, namely the Eredar. The Eredar were ruled by three leaders, namely Velen, Archimonde, and Kil'jaeden. Sargeras wanted them into
Now I know this is a little bit of a repeat of what we just saw, but we're getting there. We're getting there, trust me.
his army, so he made contact with the leaders and he showed them a future in which they would receive incredible power, knowledge beyond their imagination, and planets full of loving subjects who would worship and honor them. Archimonde and Kil'jaeden were directly on board with this plan. They were taken away by Sargeras and his powers. But the prophet Velen felt like something wasn't quite right. He meditated on this problem, and the Naru showed him the truth of the vision. The loving subjects were actually demons. The powers given would transform them into unnatural beings, and the planets they would come across would be destroyed. Velen saw that if they joined Sargeras, that the universe would be doomed, so he talked to his fellow leaders and showed them the truth. To his surprise, they didn't care about the truth. He had perhaps expected this from Archimonde, since he could sometimes easily be swayed if people played on his vanity. But Kil'jaeden, he had expected more of him. Kil'jaeden was the stronger one, he was decisive and he was wise, which is why Velen felt closer to Kil'jaeden, but even he was not convinced. They told Velen that this was just a vision in his mind, not a certain truth, and Velen realized that they now belonged to Sargeras. With the help of the Naru, Velen managed to gather as many of his people as he could, and he was ready to escape the planet. Unknown to him was that Sargeras had already started to turn some of his people, and they nearly killed Velen and his followers. Only because of the Naru was Velen able to escape the planet with his people, and Kil'jaeden was not happy about this. He took Velen's betrayal very personal, especially since they were so close, and he promised that he would find them and destroy them, even if it took 1,000 years. While Kil'jaeden kept himself busy with chasing the Draenei, Archimonde worked on serving his new master. Countless planets were waiting to be conquered, and he took great joy out of destroying each and every one of them. For countless years the Legion would move from planet to planet without much resistance, until Sargeras found a planet known as Azeroth. This story takes place around 10,000 years ago, and they call this the War of the Ancients. This story is told in 3 pretty thick novels, so I'll have to keep the story short and focus it on Archimonde. In this time period, the Night Elves were the most sophisticated race on Azeroth. They wielded powerful magic given to them by the Well of Eternity. We don't know much about the well, where it came from or why it was created, but what we do know is that it was a great source of power. The Night Elves were ruled by Queen Azora, and she, together with her advisor Xavius and the Highborn, made first contact with Sargeras. They had been reckless with their magic, trying to draw more and more power from the well, and this had drawn the attention of the Legion. When Xavius called for his queen to inspect their portal, Sargeras called out to her, mesmerized her, and told her that he was coming. From that moment on, Azora was taken away by Sargeras. She envisioned his arrival as cleansing the world of any imperfections, turning it into something as perfect as she was. She even dreamed of ruling at Sargeras' side and becoming his queen. The portal that they had created was not strong enough to transport Sargeras to Azeroth, so they had to make it bigger. They also couldn't instantly teleport all of the Legion for a massive invasion. It happened in stages. First they sent the Haumast Hakar. Then they sent Manoroth, and they had the plan of sealing the well from all the other Night Elves. This way they could focus all the power from the Well of Eternity on the portal, but naturally this caused some resistance. The Night Elves were no longer able to use their magic to their full potential, so they moved to the palace to ask the queen what was going on. As the doors opened, the demons who were able to step through the portal marched out and they killed everything in sight. Queen Azora didn't care that her people had to be murdered. She only cared about Sargeras and their perfect world, and she saw this as cleansing the world and getting it ready for Sargeras. The rest of the Night Elves who weren't part of Azora's plans, they didn't just sit on their hands. A resistance was formed with thousands of Night Elves ready to save their queen. They loved her so much that they couldn't understand that it was their own queen who willingly led them all to their slaughter, so they placed the blame on Xavius and the other Highborn. Those that did realize what was going on, like Malfurion, Tyrande, Illidan, they played a key role in the resistance. Malfurion's skills as a druid allowed him to defeat Xavius, and he closed the portal that Manoroth had created, halting the Legion's invasion, but he didn't completely stop it. Too many demons had flowed through the portal already to instantly take back their cities, and this gave Manoroth enough time to reopen the portal and admit his failure to Sargeras. Except that the voice that replied to him from the other side of the portal, it was not Sargeras, but his left-hand man Archimonde. Sargeras was very disappointed in Manoroth, and it was time to bring out the big guns. Archimonde was a tactical mastermind with plenty of troops to spare, while the Knight of Resistance had a very few strong players, but the troops were limited. Archimonde made good use of this. He trapped the Night Elves a couple of times, but what he didn't count on was that the dragons would aid the Night Elves. The dragon aspects had of course noticed what happened to the world, and it was Deathwing, by order of the Old Gods, who came up with a plan to create the Dragon Soul. A tiny disc fueled by a small portion of each aspect's their power, which would allow them to banish the Legion from Azeroth. What the aspects didn't know was that Deathwing was crazy and he was under the control of the Old Gods. He convinced the others to give up a portion of their power while he kept all of his power to himself, making him stronger than the other aspects. Archimonde had calculated on maybe a few of the dragons showing up to fight, but the full might of 5 dragonflights was something he didn't see coming. When Deathwing arrived on the battlefield, he used the disc on the Legion and the Night Elves cheered while the demons retreated. Then Deathwing's madness took over, and he also used the disc against the Night Elves' resistance and even his fellow dragons. In his mind, all the world was against him, and they should all bow down to his power. He nearly wiped out the entire blue dragonflight, but using the dragon soul did not come without consequences, and Deathwing's body began to crack. The madness within him now started to show on the outside, so he left them all to fight over the world while he went to his cave and repair himself. Whoever won the war, Deathwing didn't care if it was the Burning Legion or the Night Elves. Either one of them would bow down to his immense power, and with that he left the battlefield. Deathwing and the Demon Soul, as they now called the disc, they were a problem for the future. For now, the Night Elf army had the hold against the Legion. Their commander, Lord Ravencrest, had been murdered, so Lord Destal Star-Eye took command over the resistance. Star-Eye was a noble, a fool, and he lacked the tactical mind of Ravencrest. Archimonde made full use of this, and he had his army retreat, and Star-Eye thought that his tactics were working, that they were able to push the Legion back. In his arrogance, he forgot to look up in the sky where massive amounts of Doomguards were flying over the troops, and in their hands they held pots with red liquid. They poured the liquid over the army, and anything that it touched died a horrible death with flesh melting away. Jared Shadowsong tried to warn Star-Eye about what was going on, and he urged him to take command, reform the lines, and shoot the demons from the sky. Star-Eye, however, was stunned with seeing so much death around him and knowing that his tactics had failed. Up in the sky, Jared saw more Doomguard coming, and he tried to pull Star-Eye away. Realizing that the commander wouldn't move, he turned his mount around and he rode off just in time before the liquid killed Star-Eye and all those around him. Archimonde's tactics could have crushed the Night Elves right there, but Jared unwillingly took command of the host. He ordered archers to shoot down the Doomguards and he reformed the lines, holding the land against the Legion. Now the Night Elves had a chance again. They had a commander not placed in his position because of his title or his status, but because he had a good mind on his shoulders and was able to lead. That did not mean that the victory would come easy, since the demons returned to the battlefield with even more numbers than before. The Legion had countless soldiers living for the pleasure of torment and battle, and Archimonde was not afraid to use them all. This meant that the Night Elves needed new allies, and Malfurion Stormrage had talked with his teacher, the demigod Cenarius, about asking the other demigods for help. It took a very long time to convince the demigods to join the war effort, but when they did, they killed hundreds, thousands of demons. Being demigods did not make them invincible though, and as each demigod fell to the Legion, Cenarius pushed himself harder to make up for their loss. It seemed like Cenarius himself would fall to the endless numbers of the Legion, but his father Malorn stepped up and saved his life. He raced through the battlefield and he gave the Night Elves a chance to drag Cenarius back. Upon doing so, Archimonde himself entered the battle and he fought with this powerful demigod. Malorn is a white stag and he charged Archimonde with his antlers. He even gave him a good fight, but in the end Archimonde managed to place Malorn in a headlock. He slowly twisted the demigod's head in an awkward angle. A tremendous cracking sound echoed through the region, one that for just a brief moment caused all other noises to cease. Archimonde had killed Cenarius' father. In response, Malfurion unleashed his untapped powers as he tried to avenge the father of his mentor. Great vines spread around Archimonde, which didn't bother him at first. He ripped the small vines, he tried to throw them away, only to see the vines grab onto him again. More and more vines seized his body and he tried frantically to rip them away. Malfurion kept his eyes on the Demon Lord as he repeated his spell, and Archimonde realized that he couldn't free himself, so he clapped his hands and he vanished in a great ball of green fire. So great was Archimonde's power, and Malfurion felt like he had failed his teacher. Malfurion was able to send Archimonde away from the battlefield, at least for the moment, but he didn't vanquish him. Near the end of the story, Sargeras was very close to entering Azeroth, and Archimonde realized that he had failed his master. He would be punished, just like Manoroth would be punished, but it didn't mean that he would just sit and wait for it to happen. He was going to entertain himself, vent some of his rage upon those who foolishly thought that they could stand against the might of the Legion. Archimonde returned to the battlefield once more, killing demons, night elves, dragons, dragons, anything that stood in his path. Jared Shadowsong saw the giant approaching, and although he knew that he wouldn't stand a chance, he was not about to surrender. He drew his blade and said, "I await you, our command," and the archdemon laughed. To his credit, Jared stood his ground while Archimonde beat him senseless, and Jared himself wasn't even able to touch the Demon Lord. What they didn't know was that Malfurion and several others had made their way to the Well of Eternity, and they managed to use the Demon Soul to reverse the portal. This did not only stop Sargeras from entering Azeroth, but it also sucked the Legion back to where it came from. The Legion, Manoroth, Archimonde, none of them stood a chance against the power of the Well. As a side effect, the Well was imploding and the land of Kalimdor was about to split apart. The Night Elves fled all the way to Mount Hyjal as the world reshaped itself and turned into how we know it as today. Before this happened, Illidan managed to fill a couple of vials with water from the original well, and he used this on a lake of water to create a new well. The Night Elves had just ended a war against the Legion. A war started because of the original well and dabbling in magic, so they were not happy about this. They wanted to execute Illidan on the spot, but his brother Malfurion pleaded for his life and they imprisoned him instead. To turn this curse into a blessing, the Dragon Aspects decided to plant the World Tree Nordersail over the new well, and they gave it their blessing. For as long as the tree would stand, the Night Elves would be immortal, time would be at their side, and they would have a chance to learn. Before they imprisoned Illidan, he warned them that the Legion would return, that they would thank him one day for creating this well, and that they would need him once more. His warning would become a reality, since Sargeras still wanted to conquer the world, and during Warcraft 3, the Legion returns.
And there we go. Ah, look at that. Look at that. Just as we get to the Ner'zhul Lich King part, he ends the video. No, Noble, no! Why? It's amazing to look back at the older videos. Like, the things that I created. The freaking Dreadlords floating in the air. Archimonde being like, "So long, suckers." Oh, beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Why? Yeah, Malygos at the time, like somebody asked, like, why wasn't Malygos there when they blessed the tree? Deathwing had used the Demon Soul against his fellow aspects, and he nearly eradicated the entire Blue Dragonflight, causing Malygos to slip into insanity. So by that time, Malygos was like, "See you, suckers, I don't want anything to do with this anymore." So that's why he wasn't there. I want to keep watching that. Oh, it's cool though. So basically what happened here, right, to connect it back to the overall storyline, is the Well of Eternity. We don't know why exactly the Titans placed the Well of Eternity on Azeroth. We know part of its power was to help with the evolution. Like, we've seen that Dark Trolls evolved into Night Elves with the help of the powers from the well. We've seen Murlocs transform into Jinyu with a speculated, suggested power of the well. So part of it was to give, you know, evolution a little boost. Part of it was give power. But at the same time, this Well of Eternity was eventually used to make contact with Sargeras, to let him know that this little planet was out there. And what better way to mold and shape your army than to have them not instantly fight the bulk of the Burning Legion, not instantly fight all of them, but a little taste. Come at them in waves after waves after waves. So part of it could have been that they foresaw the abuse of the Well of Eternity, and they foresaw that the world would get its first taste with the whole Burning Legion storyline, and they would have to fight back. Now, like I said, this is not the first time, or this is not the last time that the Burning Legion would try to conquer the planet. As you could just see, the whole Ner'zhul Lich King storyline is connected to it. Legion is gonna have another invasion, Kil'jaeden with the Sunwell trying to invade it again and again and again. The point is that the Legion was notified about Azeroth, and the little planet that could did something that's unheard of in the universe as far as we know. It stood up against the Legion, and it actually put up a fight. Also notice, like, what kind of mechanics are used. The aspects were used in the War of the Ancients. The aspects were empowered by the Titans. The Dragon Soul, also known as the Demon Soul, was used to fight back. All kinds of mechanics that eventually came there. And somebody asked me, like, why doesn't, like, Sargeras and the Legion just pop up on the planet? Like, part of it is part of the rules, right? If somebody, an uber god like Sargeras would suddenly pop up across the planet and be like, "Hey everybody, I made it! Time to stab your planet and kill you now. That would instantly destroy the storyline, and that would be really crappy. On the other hand, it seems, you know, we don't know where Sargeras is. We don't know how far away from Azeroth he is. We don't know, you know, if he can travel there. Maybe he's on his way. Maybe one day he'll show up. But for now, the rules of the game is that a very powerful portal has to be created in order to summon very powerful demons. Like the Avatar Sargeras, Archimand, Kil'jaeden. It requires a powerful portal. Why doesn't the Titans kill all them demons and Sargeras? Possibly win plays, like it's possible that they have some sort of code that they can't attack each other. We've seen a similar code to Dreadlords, like Dreadlords were not allowed to kill each other, perhaps that is it. Perhaps they're not powerful enough to take down Sargeras, or perhaps they were like, our plans, our methods would all be very logical, it would all be towards order. Whereas the army that they envisioned that would eventually help them in their salvation needed to be able to think outside the box. And that's actually a very good bridge into what we're going to watch yet, or the next video that we're going to watch, because the Burning Legion is not the only threat that tries to take Azeroth. There's another major threat in the lore, namely the Old Gods. And even the Old Gods in the grand scheme of the Titans have their role to play. But before we talk about that, let's take a look at the story of Old Gods, which is around 13 minutes for those interested. Let me set it up. I like that bridge. That bridge was really, really good. Yes. Okay. Okay, cool. So, we're gonna do this. Then we're gonna do this. Then we're gonna do this. Ta-da! Instantly got it ready. Here we go. Enjoy.
Hello everyone. Last time we took a look at the Titans, now...
Oh my, I sound so sensual. Oh, hello everyone.
Now let's see what we know about the Old Gods. The Old Gods are not native to Azeroth, they simply infected it. They're also not bound to Azeroth itself, since an Old God has been seen in Outland. It's uncertain where exactly the Old Gods came from, but what we do know is that they were fighting with each other. In this war they used the Elemental Lords and they pitched the elements against each other. That is of course until the Titans came and imprisoned them beneath the earth. Depending on the source, 3, 4 or 5 Old Gods lie imprisoned beneath Azeroth. I'll once again go with the Old Gods and the Ordering of Azeroth book, which states that the Titans imprisoned 5 evil gods far beneath the surface of the world. The Old Gods are the counterparts of the Titans. Where the Titans want order, the Old Gods want chaos. The Old Gods used the Curse of Flesh to weaken the seed races. This weakness would make them easier to manipulate and would cause some of the early races to evolve into the species that we know today. The seed races are the original races created by the Titans, and for example you have the Urvan that evolved into the dwarves or the Vrykul into the humans. The first Old God that we discovered in Classic was named Kafun. Now either it's Kafun or CT Hun, I just say Kafun. The prophecy of Kafun claims that a battle between a Titan and Kafun raged in Silithus. A Titan fell, but may not have died, and an Old God had also fallen. However, the Old God did survive, and he survived unnoticed by the Titans. For millennia he lay dormant beneath the world, biding its time. From its prison, it waited for the exact moment at which to strike back at those that would see it harmed. Over time, the Well of Eternity would give life to the creatures known as the Silithid. Kafun used the Silithid to create avatars of his image, later known as Kirai. The Kirai would name the Old God Kafun, and Kafun was born. The great fortress city of Ankirai was created to house their growing armies and prepare for the coming of Kafun. His children had spent thousands of years building an army capable of exacting revenge upon the whole of Kalimdor, and there were no Titans around to stop them this time. Only the Night Elves that once inhabited this area were there to defend. They call this the War of the Shifting Sands. The Night Elves held their ground, led by a Night Elf known as Stakhelm. Eventually the twin emperors of Ankirai would capture the son of Stakhelm and brutally execute him in front of the Night Elf forces. The war continued, but the will of the great leader was sapped. The whole of Silithus was soon engulfed by the Silithid, and the Night Elves retreated to Unguro Crater. Something in Unguro Crater prevented the Kirai from being able to take the land. They referred to it as Godlands, but it's uncertain what exactly stopped them. What we do know is that this gave the Night Elves enough time to ask the Bronze Dragonflight for help. At first they refused, but after the Caverns of Time were attacked, the Bronze Dragonflight joined the battle. Even the combined strength of the Dragonflight and the Night Elves wasn't enough to win the battle, so the Bronze asked the help of Red, Blue and Green. All of them together managed to push the Kirai back into the ruins and raise a wall that would hold them imprisoned. Until the day would come that someone would reforge the scepter of the shifting sands and hit the gong. And hit the gong we did. On January 23rd, 2006, the gates of Ankirai were opened for the first time and the path to Kafun lay before us. Adventurers bravely fought an old god for the very first time, and like the Titans, they thought it was defeated. As it turns out, we merely defeated the manifestation of Kafun. His will, his essence, is still alive, and while the Lich King attacked Stormwind City in Ogrimmar, Cho'Gall began the resurrection of his new master, the old god Kafun. This deformed the ogre's body, which became monstrous and with similar features to his master. Eventually Cho'Gall would fail to resurrect his master, but the threat of Kafun is ever present.
Death is close.
The second major manifestation that we've seen of an old god was Yogg-Saron. Yogg-Saron was imprisoned by the Titans inside Ulduar, and to guard him they left behind the Titanic Watchers known as Loken, Thorim, Hodir, Tyr, Mimiron and Freya. Yogg-Saron wanted what every old god wants, and that is to be free again, so he corrupted his jailers, started with Loken. Loken was the chief jailer or prime designate. After his corruption, Loken subdued the other Watchers and made it possible for Yogg-Saron to escape. Loken was leading the Aesir, Storm Giants and Vanir, Earth Giants, but would eventually turn those against each other in order of Yogg-Saron. This war between the Giants would give Loken a reason for neutralizing them, and he would place the Urvan, Giants and Vrykul into stasis at locations like Ulduar and Uldaman. He also killed Sif, the wife of his brother Thorim, and blamed the Frost Giants. This turned Thorim against his former allies and would later cause him to give into despair. All in all, Loken became as corrupted as could be, and like I said, this allowed Yogg-Saron to escape his bindings.
How could we have missed this until now? King Varian, thank you for coming on such short notice.
What's this all about, Ronan?
I've called you here to ask for your help. While our efforts against the Lich King press on, Bran here has brought us frightening news of the horrors beneath Ulduar and of its dark prisoner.
Prisoner? Huh. With its binding shattered, its influence unchecked, it's gonna come after us, and we're gonna be the prisoners.
You can see now what we're up against. If this evil is not stopped, then the armies of the Death God will
That
march on
Jaina
our
model
doorstep.
though.
You'll have to excuse me.
That Jaina model.
Well, what do you propose we do?
Thrall, what are you doing here so soon?
The summons sounded dire, Jaina. What's happened?
Bran Bronzebeard's forces assaulted the gates of Ulduar. They battled the Iron Lords and their cursed minions.
Evasive action! Evasive action!
He won't stop talking about this presence he felt, permeating the great halls, stirring in their minds, chilling their blood. He said the horror that the Titans imprisoned so long ago, Yogg-Saron, has awakened.
Bran Bronzebeard would explore Ulduar in Wrath of the Lich King in search of hidden Titan knowledge or treasure. What he found was not what he expected, and he quickly made his way to the Kirin Tor, asking them for aid in breaching Ulduar and placing Yogg-Saron back in his confinements. The heroes of the Horde and the Alliance answered the call, and they made their way through Ulduar, freeing the guardians Thorim, Hodir, Mimiron and Freya from their corruption. Those that are still paying attention might have noticed that there is one Watcher missing, namely Tyr. It's unknown where Tyr currently is. All we know is that he wasn't in Ulduar when we arrived, and that he left his Watcher's tower without a struggle. Who knows, we might see him again in the future. The heroes made their way to the chamber of Yogg-Saron, and with the help of the guardians managed to subdue him. What's interesting to note is that during the Yogg-Saron encounter, players were able to witness 3 events from the history of Warcraft. You had the creating of the Dragon Soul,
It is a weapon like no other. It must be like no other.
His brood learned their lesson before too long. You will soon learn yours.
the assassination of King Lien by Corona Half-Orcan,
The clans are united under Black Hand in this assault. They will stand together until Stormwind has fallen. Gul'dan is bringing up his warlocks by nightfall. Until then, the Blackrock clan will be trying to take the Eastern Wall.
1,000 deaths.
We will hold until the reinforcements come. As long as men with stout hearts are manning the walls and the throne, Stormwind will hold.
Tremble, mortals, before the coming of the end.
The Orc leaders agree with your assessment.
Your petty quarrels only make me stronger.
And a vision where you could see the Lich King torturing Bolvar 4 Dragon.
I am not afraid of you! I will break you as I broke
You will learn. No king rules forever. Only death is eternal.
It's speculated that Yogg-Saron has influenced these 3 specific events, however, this is purely speculation. The manifestation of Yogg-Saron was defeated, and the brave heroes focused their attention against the Lich King. Time passed until the cataclysm shattered the world.
Your fate is sealed. The end of days is finally upon you, and all who inhabit this miserable little seedling. Ului Bisarak, Gagerong,
with my torment. Its wretched kingdoms quake beneath my rage.
Shadows of my wings.
All will burn beneath the shadow of my wings.
In Cataclysm we don't face the Old God directly, but we are told who is controlling Deathwing, namely the Old God Enzov. It were the whispers of Enzov who drove Deathwing into madness, and it's rumored that Enzov is the source of corruption from the Emerald Nightmare. The goal of Deathwing is to fulfill an ancient prophecy called the Hour of Twilight, where all the defenses fail and the Old Gods are free to roam the world once again. As most of you will remember, we defeated Deathwing with the help of the Dragon Aspects and Thrall. In the end cinematic we are told that the Dragon Aspects have fulfilled their purpose and that their ancient powers are expanded.
But now, we must see it. With mortal eyes. We Dragon Aspects have fulfilled our great purpose, and our ancient power is expanded.
And this is the main reason why I hated Cataclysm so much. I won't complain about how they're going to return the Dragon Soul when they don't have control over time anymore. That's time travel, you know, you can give a spin to that. What I can't understand is that Alexstrasza says that they fulfilled their destiny. So bear with me, right? Their destiny was apparently to stop the Hour of Twilight. The one causing the Hour of Twilight is Deathwing, in order of the Old Gods. Deathwing became the puppet of the Old Gods because he received the power from the Titans. This gave him a connection to the earth, driving him insane by the whispers of the Old Gods, yeah? So he received these powers to apparently stop the Hour of Twilight, which he would cause because of those powers. So if you take away giving the powers bit, there would be no Deathwing, there would be no Hour of Twilight, and the whole reason of giving their powers would fall away. This just doesn't make sense to me. And did everyone just forget about the Old God Enzov, who actually put this all in motion? Wouldn't it be handy to have Dragon Aspects to clean up this mess? And what about the unnamed Old God that we still don't know about?
You are Azeroth's true guardians, and the future of this world is in your hands. For the dawning of the Age of Mortals has begun.
Besides that bit, Alexstrasza says that it's the Age of Mortals. And what do we mortals do? Balm Faramore and invade Pandaria. Very good call, Alexstrasza. Well done. With that little rant said, it's time to take a look at the next named old god in Pandaria. I'm going to tell you a couple of the theories that people have come up with and see what the future might bring.
That, however, we'll save for our next video. Oh man. My rage was also so mellow back then. Like, if you compare that rage to 5.3, I'm so fucking mellow. Like, I'm so mad at you, Blizzard, for this ending. I was like, oh, it's so cute. But yeah, it is a loop, right? We know that, you know, Deathwing was granted these powers. He became an aspect, became a puppet of the old gods, and the old gods, they used Deathwing to bring about the Outer Twilight in the Cataclysm. It's a whole loop that they created with the ending of the Cataclysm. It doesn't make a lot of sense, except, which brings us back to the theory of everything is a plan. Hang on, I made a note of this. What if the Titans actually knew that this was going to happen? What if they counted on it? Remember that when Deathwing became the aspect, what did he do? During the War of the Ancients, he created the Dragon Soul, which would be known as the Demon Soul. Sure, it was used to enslave Alexstrasza and do horrible things with. Sure, it nearly destroyed the Night Elf army. But at the same time, it also allowed Thrall to defeat Deathwing. It gave an artifact of immense power. It allowed Illidan to infiltrate the castle and try to work things from behind the screens. Basically, what I'm trying to say is Wonderboy Thrall is there because of Deathwing. And without Wonderboy Thrall, you know, we would all be doomed. I wish I had the story of Thrall done. Unfortunately, I don't, because Thrall just connects to nearly everything. Because he's Thrall. But, you could even explain that crappy ending by saying that the Titans counted on it. That the Titans counted on the aspects being there up to a certain point. Deathwing setting things in motion, the Cataclysm getting Thrall to that Uber level. And that even that was counted on. Because if you are trying to, you know, if you try to create a powerful army, where do you do it? Do you give them some sort of Garden of Eden planet, where everything is frolicking and nice, la 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 la? Or do you do it in the freaking fires of hell, in the fire of war? Where does your army, your metal shape itself? Of course, you need a planet that's gonna test your troops, that's gonna mold them, make them powerful. The Titans knew that the world of Azeroth was infected. They knew that the old gods were there. They tried to smack down Sargeras, that's the whole storyline with Mr. Pandaria. But at the same time, they also imprisoned these evil old gods down beneath in the planets. We know with the whole Ulduar storyline that there were devices in place. If you remember that Elgalon fight, where he came down and was like, I'm gonna assess your planet, I'm gonna check if it's all working. If not, we're gonna blow this shit up and we're just gonna start from scratch. If that was a possibility, why not do it right at the start? Why not blow up the planet and you know, rebuild it? Because you wanted to form these troops, you want them to pitch them against Cthulhu, against Yogg-Saron, against N'Zoth, against Sargeras. You wanted them molded and shaped and manipulated. Not to forget, the curse of flesh placed upon us by the old gods, upon the characters by the old gods. The curse of flesh is a curse placed upon the Titan creations to make them weaker, to give them flesh, to make them more vulnerable to the corruption of the old gods. Titans knew about the curse of flesh when they created the Urvan. They saw an anomaly take place, which eventually led to the dwarves, and they were like, this is fine, this works. This curse of flesh allowed mecha gnomes to become gnomes and invent something like the Mecha Strider. And fun fact, the Mecha Strider is then later adapted by the original mecha gnomes into their society. Which means that a creature turned into flesh was able to think outside of the box, was able to imagine something that the perfect creation of the Titans itself was not able to think of. So even the curse of flesh is something that made us more powerful. Look at the Vrykul human storyline. Humans were disregarded by the Vrykul because they were born weak and ugly, and they tossed them away. Many years later, the humans come back with vengeance. They kick the crap out of King Yimmeron, they kick the crap out of the Vrykul, they kick the crap out of the Lich King, which the Vrykul actually allied with, even though the Lich King was a freaking human. The curse of flesh isn't that bad. It has flaws, absolutely, it makes you vulnerable to the Whispers. If you look at, for example, Benedictus, I think he was called. Like, he was corrupted, manipulated. If you look at the Twilight Hammer clan, they are also manipulated and corrupted. But at the same time, it also brings, it brings its advantages. So that's what I'm saying, like, if you want to build an army that's able to think past your own mindset, like if you're a god and you're all about order in the universe and you have a singular mindset, and you realize that your way is never going to defeat Sargeras, is never going to be able to stand up against such a being as Sargeras, you need better troops, you need something unique, something that's able to adapt, mold, and look at how well it does. Look at what Azeroth has done. Threats come, threats go. Horde and Alliance unite, they find a way to overcome it, and they become stronger. Yeah, Benedictus looked at Deathwing and he was like, oh, I fall to despair. It was more about Twilight Hammerclan, you're absolutely right. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it was no, no coincidence that they chose Azeroth as its planet. So ladies and gentlemen, as we just started off with, now about Thrall and the Horde and all that, like the two factions are keeping each other strong, but in order to understand like what happened between these two factions, how exactly did the Alliance and the Horde come to be, because these are the two major forces that we have on Azeroth that are ready to defend the planet. That story is told within the story of Illyria and Turalyon, which takes around 10 minutes. Let me just set it up. So we're gonna open it, then we're gonna shut it down. Then we're gonna plop, we're gonna do it like this, we're gonna do it like this. There you go! It's the story of Illyria and Turalyon Part 1. Enjoy.
Hello everyone. Did you ever notice those neat little tips that they give during the loading screens? One of those tips since they made Mr. Pandaria is the following. Nobody has seen Illyria or Turalyon in years. This got a lot of speculation going about a possible return of these two in MoP, but we're near in the end and still nobody has seen them. But who are they anyways and why should we care? Let's find out, shall we? Those that play on the Alliance side most likely see Illyria and Turalyon every time they visit Stormwind. They, together with Khadgar, Deneth Trollbane and Kurdran Wildhammer, have received honorable statues in front of Stormwind for their bravery and courage during the Second War. To understand the Second War, you need to know the history of the Horde and the First War. All of this is a very long story that I'm sure I'll make a video about it in the future, but for now I'll have to keep it short. If you want full details, I'll link the novels in the description and they are definitely worth your time to read. Okay, so the short story. Draenei made their way to Draenor. Kil'jaeden was pissed at the Draenei and he found out that they were hiding on the planet of Draenor. Instead of sending his army, he decided to use the orcs who also lived on the planet. The orcs became the Horde drank demon blood and they started to use demonic magic and they started to incorporate warlocks into their ranks. Ner'zhul was the first leader of the Horde, but he found out that Kil'jaeden was using them. At that point it was too late to do anything about it and Ner'zhul, his apprentice Gul'dan, took Ner'zhul's place in following Kil'jaeden and his orders. Gul'dan had a lot of ambition for power, but he liked to control people from behind the curtains, so instead he made Black Hand war chief of the Horde. Orcs nearly killed all of the Draenei, the use of demonic magic destroyed Draenor, and Kil'jaeden thought that all the Draenei were gone, so he left the Horde to die. The demon blood was still pumping in the orcs' their veins, their world was destroyed, so they had to do something before they would either kill each other or die from starvation. Medivh, under the control of Sargeras, contacted Gul'dan and together they built a dark portal which would allow the Horde to come to Azeroth. Eventually Medivh's apprentice Khadgar, together with Corona Half-Orcan and Anduin Lothar, would find out about Medivh's corruption and they killed him. Gul'dan was inside the mind of Medivh at the time that they killed him and he was trying to find secrets for more power. The killing of Medivh put Gul'dan in a coma and this allowed Doomhammer to take the title of War Chief.
For Doomhammer!
Doomhammer knew about Gul'dan and his lust for power and he knew that War Chief Blackhand was just a puppet of Gul'dan, so he took him out and became the leader. In the meantime, the Horde had assaulted the city of Stormwind and as King Lian said,
"We will hold until the reinforcements come. As long as men with stout hearts are manning the walls and the throne, Stormwind will hold."
Tremble, mortals, before the coming of the end.
The Orc leaders agree with your assessment.
Corona Half-Orcan, against her will and under the influence of Gul'dan's magic, assassinated King Lian in front of the eyes of young Varian Rin. Stormwind fell, and Anduin Lothar, hero and Lion of Stormwind, together with Khadgar, took the prince and as many people as he could across the sea to the kingdom of Lordaeron. In Lordaeron he warned King Taranis Menethil and the other nobles of the threat of the Horde and they formed an alliance. They called this alliance the Alliance of Lordaeron and Anduin Lothar was appointed to lead the army.
For Lordaeron! For the Alliance!
So that's the short version of the backstory behind all of this, and at this point in the story is where we meet Turellian and Illyria. As you can imagine, battling the Horde would take as much manpower as they could find. It was Archbishop Alonsus Faul who came to Lothar with the idea of adding paladins to the ranks. He had heard about the destruction of Northshire Abbey and he wondered how a mere priest could defend himself. This brought him the idea of bringing the teachings of the church, the holy light and the powers of a warrior all together in one. The first paladins of the Silver Hand, as they would be called, were Uther the Lightbringer, Seden Davrohan, Gavrinrad the Dire, Tyrion Fordring, and of course Turellian. Lothar met with the paladins and he saw something more in Turellian than just another paladin. Turellian had already heard of stories of Lothar and his reputation, so he was rather intimidated by him. He also didn't have the strong conviction in the light as the others had, so when Lothar appointed him as second in command to the Alliance army, he was both honored and scared shitless. What you also need to know about Lothar was that he was not only the Lion of Stormwind, he was also the last descendant of the king Thoradin of Arafor. Thoradin had helped the High Elves during the Troll Wars, so the elves owed him and his descendants a debt of gratitude. However, Anastarian Sunstrider, king of the High Elves, did not see the Horde as a threat to his own people, so he only sent a couple of troops just to be rid of his debt. Illyria Windrunner disagreed with her king's decisions and felt that they needed to offer more, so she volunteered to join the troops and offered her aid to the Alliance. Yes, Illyria, her last name is Windrunner. That means that both Sylvanas Windrunner and Verisa Windrunner are her sisters. The moment that Turellian saw Illyria, he was head over heels in love, man. She, however, took a little bit longer to warm up to him. So the Alliance was formed and ready to make a stand against the Horde. In the meantime, Gul'dan had awakened out of his coma and Doomhammer nearly struck him where he stood. Gul'dan managed to convince Doomhammer to spare him by offering him more powerful troops in the form of the first Death Knights. You might know one of them as a boss in the Black Temple, Theron Gorfiend. Warchief Doomhammer had also managed to recruit the Forest Trolls into the Horde, and these trolls were led by Zul'jin. They had also found the Demon Soul and figured out how to use it, and they used its power to kidnap Alexstrasza and force her children to fight with them. Finally, they conquered Casmodan and used its resources to build ships and cross the sea to take over the next part of Azeroth. Now I want to focus this video on Turellian and Illyria, so I'm going to skip over some parts of the war, so it's a need to know basis. Just keep that in mind as you listen to the story. The Alliance forces met the Wildhammer dwarfs as the Horde made a move on the hinterlands. They saved the dwarfs and Kurgan Wildhammer, leaders of the Wildhammer's dwarfs, pledged his loyalty and troops to the Alliance. Turellian was first very uncertain about his abilities to be second in command and his abilities on the battlefield, but as the skirmishes against the Horde progressed, as he gained more experience, he became more confident about himself. This moment in the hinterlands where they just liberated the dwarfs, they had to split up the troops because the Horde forces that they just battled was just a fraction of the force. The real force of the Horde was moving on to Quel'Thalas, home of the High Elves. They couldn't just leave the remaining orcs to regroup, so Turellian took command and together with Khadgar and Illyria, they moved to save Quel'Thalas. And they didn't do a bad job either. Together with the High Elf forces led by Sylvanas and Lor'themar, they managed to repel the Horde invasion of the kingdom. That is, of course, until the Dragon Riders of the Horde appeared and they started to breathe fire over the troops. They realized that they couldn't fight this inferno even though Illyria was desperate to go and help her kin. The High Elves thankfully had the power of the Sunwell on their side and they would be able to use this to protect their city against the attack of the dragons. Turellian figured that the next target of the Horde would be the capital city of the Alliance, and that's where they had to go before it would fall. Lor'themar and Sylvanas pledged themselves and their troops to the Alliance in order of their king. They now realized it was foolish to underestimate the power of the Horde and it was time to make up for this. They entered the High Elves their vessels, their ships, and they set sail to the kingdom of Lordaeron. At Lordaeron they battled with the Horde and managed to win the day, but only because of the treachery of Gul'dan. What happened was that Doomhammer led his forces to the capital, while Gul'dan stayed behind. He told Doomhammer that he was trying to destroy the High Elves' defenses and increase the power of the Horde. But in reality he had other plans, namely the tomb of Sargeras. He had seen this tomb as he was inside the mine of Medivh and he hungered for the powers that lay within. When Doomhammer found out about this betrayal, he sent troops to go and kill Gul'dan. You might think to yourself, well, that's foolish, sending your troops away in the middle of a siege, but that was what Doomhammer was fighting for. Throughout the years the Horde had lost their sense of honor and Doomhammer would do anything to keep that honor intact, even if it meant losing this siege. And so it was that the Horde troops pursued Gul'dan, but little did they know that it would be Gul'dan, his own lust for power, that would kill him in the end. There were demonic things in the tomb, things that took great pleasure in destroying this treacherous little orc. The damage was done though, and Doomhammer was forced to retreat all the way back to Blackrock Mountain, where they would make their final stand. In the meantime, the Alliance forces had regrouped and Lothar was very proud of Turellian. It was time to pursue the Horde and kick them back to their own planet. In that pursuit, the Alliance crossed the kingdom of the dwarves and they liberated Ironforge of the Horde forces. King Magni Bronzebeard was very thankful for this and he sent some of his troops with the Alliance, while the rest made sure that Cas Modan was clear of any orcs. And so the final battle in front of Blackrock Mountain began. Doomhammer and Anduin Lothar locked eyes and they recognized each other as leaders. The rest of the fighting forces and the battle around them faded away as they entered a titanic battle. Doomhammer was younger than Lothar, but what Lothar missed in youth, he made up for with experience. It truly was a titanic battle with both of them landing some hard blows, but in the end it was the legendary weapon known as Doomhammer that shattered the blade of the Lion of Stormwind. It also crushed his skull in the process. Doomhammer emerged victorious from his battle and he expected that the Alliance troops would kneel down in defeat after seeing their leader fall. Things didn't go exactly as he expected though. Turellian saw his mentor, his leader and friend fall in battle and something clicked in his mind. For months Turellian had been struggling with his faith and with one particular question. How could the Holy Light unite all creatures, all souls, when something as monstrous, as cruel and as purely evil as the Orc Horde walked this world? He heard Doomhammer say during the battle with Lothar, "Until your world belongs to us." And he realized that the light did unite all life, everyone in this world, but not the orcs, because they did not belong on this planet. He picked up the broken blade of the lion, a pure blinding light shining from him so bright that it made both Alliance and Horde forces look away. He resumed the battle Lothar had started and he emerged victorious. He did not kill Doomhammer, instead he knocked him out with the hilt of the broken blade. Doomhammer would stand trial for his crimes and the leaders of the Alliance would decide his fate. What Doomhammer expected to happen to the Alliance forces instead happened to the Horde forces. Seeing their war chief defeated, most of them fled or surrendered. Some decided to fight until the death and the Alliance gladly delivered. The Alliance knew that the Horde forces had come from the Dark Portal, but they did not know the location, so they decided to follow the fleeing orcs who led them straight to it. There, Khadgar used his magic and brought the portal down, destroying the gateway from Azeroth to Draenor. The captured orcs were used for hard labor and their first job was to build a statue of Lothar on the spot where he gave his life for Azeroth. Turellian, now a full-fledged paladin, took over leadership of the Alliance and so the day was saved. At least until the Dark Portal would be reopened, but that is a story for another day.
That is a story for another day. By the way, this image is just... I fucking... Oh, I love it, I love it, I love it. Thank you so much for sending it here. Oh, I'm just gonna keep it here. Okay, okay, Titans, go. Right, so the point of that video is... you know, it explains how the Alliance of Lordaeron was formed. It explains how the invasion of the Horde forced the humans and even the High Elves and all the other races that eventually joined them to come together and face off against the threat of the Horde. Notice how Sargeras played a huge part in that invasion. At the time, he was inside the Guardian Medivh. He corrupted him and he made contact with Gul'dan to open up the Dark Portal. Could it be possible that the Titans foresaw this, that they knew that their brother would eventually try to infiltrate Agewyne, become Medivh, open the portal, start the invasion, and they made sure that the troops on Azeroth were ready to go, were ready to defend the planet? Who knows? Aliens, man. Of Titans even. Fucking Titans. Ah. Oh, it's beautiful. It is beautiful. Right, what else did I want to say? Notice how Sargeras, blah blah blah. Right. Now, like I mentioned before, right, you might say that the Horde invasion caused a whole lot of lives for the Alliance and caused a whole bunch of damage, and it did. Honestly, it did. But if you look at the Caverns of Time, you see that events happened exactly the way that they were supposed to happen. And most of them, as much as it sucks, it points towards Thrall coming on the planet because, you know, he's Wonder Boy Thrall. Was it not for the first invasion, you wouldn't have young baby Orc who would later rise up and escape his enslavement, would reform the Horde into a better Horde, one that was capable of teaming up with the Alliance, would start on carving out a little piece of the world. Because in this storyline, what's actually funny is that Turellian, he makes like the connection, like the orcs are not from this planet, so, you know, the light is supposed to vanquish them. It's a little bit iffy, but at the time that's what he needed to get his faith in the light. But later on, Thrall's horde was not the same as the Orcish horde that invaded, and pretty much every single war chief that came into place With the War Chief, also the Horde changed. Garrosh's Horde, Thrall's Horde, Doomhammer's Horde, Blackhand's Horde. Different War Chief, different kind of Horde. And in Thrall's case, he tried to carve out the land, he tried to work towards peace. Didn't work out that well when he placed Garrosh in the mantle of War Chief. Regardless, things happen exactly the way that the Titans saw them to happen. The factions keep each other strong, right? They take down incredibly powerful foes together, and over the years, they forced themselves into a powerful weapon. You can even remember the conversation from Mr. Pandaria, where that innkeeper drops some, knowledge upon Wrathion. He's like, yo, Wrathion, you are strong, not despite one another, but because of one another. And Wrathion is like, screw you, Fong, or whatever his name was. I don't care. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we do need to take a look at Wrathion, because I think Wrathion plays a key part in the Titan's design. An uncorrupted black dragon, cleansed by Titan mechanics left behind on the planet. Sounds interesting to me. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to check out the story of Wrathion, which is a big one. It's around 25 minutes. So before we do, I've been streaming for an hour and 40 minutes now. Before we do, let's take a minor break. I hope you all enjoyed that little recess, the little break. I hope you all had your drinks and your pee breaks and all that. So we're gonna return. We're gonna return to what we started with. Like we just talked about, we did the whole, notice how Sargeras was key elements in the first Orcish Horde invasion, how the alliance was formed. And now we're going to take a look at Wrathion, because as I mentioned, Wrathion, in my opinion, plays a big part in it. He is the first uncorrupted black dragon, uncorrupted due to a titanic device that we found. We're gonna talk a little bit about the history with his father, about the demon soul, the dragon soul, all that good stuff. And then we're gonna switch over to the story of Wrathion. Love, 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 love. So let me just set it up, 2 seconds. Yup, you. And then you. Not yet, I'm not ready yet. Not yet, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Okay, then we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do this. Voila! Enjoy, ladies and gentlemen. It's gonna be a big one. It's like 26 minutes, but I hope you'll enjoy.
Hello everyone, just a warning, this video will contain spoilers for the 5.3 legendary questline. If you don't want any spoilers, please turn off the video and come back at a later time.
You have been warned, ladies and gentlemen. There are massive Mr. Pandaria spoilers in this video. You have been warned.
This lore video was requested but also inspired by some of the comments on my legendary video. It became clear that not everyone has seen the birth of Wrathion, and there was a bit of confusion as to how Deathwing could be his father. So, to understand the story, to understand Wrathion, we first have to take a look at his father and the Black Dragonflight.
What will our children learn from our mistakes?
Once upon a time, the Titans imprisoned the old gods and granted the 5 dragon aspects the power to protect Azeroth. Neltharion was chosen to be the guardian of the earth, and he received his blessing from the Titan Kas'goroth. My blessing upon you will seem humble compared to those which have been bestowed upon the others. The managing of time, of life, of dreams and magic, I offer you the earth. The soil, the ground, the deep places. But know that the earth is the basis of all things. It is where we are rooted, where you must come from if you are to go to. Here is whence true strength comes, from deep places within the world and within oneself. It was this connection to the world that made Neltharion vulnerable to the whispers of the old gods, who lay imprisoned deep within the earth. They promised him power beyond his imagination.
Actually, just an update. This video was made after the release of Dawn of the Aspects, and in the novel Dawn of the Aspects it was revealed that Deathwing was already listening to the whispers of the old gods, even in his proto-dragon state, so even before he was granted his powers.
If he served them. He began to dream of a world dominated by his black dragonflight, a world in which the other dragonflights ceased to exist and Ysera and Alexstrasza would be his slaves for mating. The creation of the Dragon Soul, also known as the Demon Soul, plays a huge part in Neltharion story. The creation of the Dragon Soul was around the time of the War of the Ancients, where Sargeras was trying to come to our world and the Burning Legion was invading for the first time. Neltharion convinced the other aspects to place a portion of their power inside the Dragon Soul so that they could use it against the Burning Legion.
It is done. All have given that which must be given. I now seal the Dragon Soul forever.
That terrible glow. Should that be? Tremble, mortals, before the coming of the end.
Yes.
It is a weapon like no other. It must be like no other.
His brood learned their lesson before too long. You will soon learn yours.
Unknown to the others was that Neltharion never gave up a portion of his powers, so he became the most powerful aspect of all. He used the Dragon Soul not only against the Burning Legion, but also the Kel'Dorai and the other aspects. They tried to stop him of course, but the power of the Dragon Soul was incredible. They did force him to retreat, but with heavy casualties to all the Dragonflights, and his betrayal caused the other aspects to hide, even from each other. Because Neltharion was the only aspect that didn't place his powers in the Dragon Soul, he was the only aspect that could damage it. That also meant that the Dragon Soul could damage him, and it corrupted his body. His body cracked open, revealing his molten heart, and magma and fire flowed off his chest. His eyes became a flaming red, demonstrating the magnitude of his powers and the depths of his evil. Goblins forged an adamantium armor for the master, and this armor is the only thing keeping Deathwing together. Thus was Deathwing the Destroyer born, and the Dragon Soul was renamed the Demon Soul. Eventually the Demon Soul would be stolen, and it would be used to fuel the portal that would lead Sargeras into our world. Deathwing tried to reclaim the Demon Soul, but the old gods wanted it to be used to summon Sargeras, so they fought against their own puppets. The old gods hoped to escape their prison beneath the planets by amplifying this gateway and use those energies to escape.
Come, sister. It is time to end this. We will cleanse the Dragon Soul of the old god's dark influence.
It is too powerful.
How dare you touch my creation? It is mine! Mine!
Neltharion! What have you done? You have doomed us all to the madness of the old gods!
Mine!
He is lost to us, sister. He is Neltharion.
The power of the soul is tearing him apart!
I will not be denied!
The old gods protect the soul.
The link to the portal must be broken! Quickly, to Storm Rage!
As we know, the summoning of Sargeras failed and the land of Kalimdor split apart. Malfurion and the 4 remaining aspects placed a spell on the Demon Soul that would prevent Deathwing from ever using it again. They then hid it in a place where only the 4 dragons would find it, but not Deathwing. Or so they thought. Deathwing would find the Demon Soul, and the Demon Soul would play a constant part in the history of the dragons. I won't go into the details in this video, but it has done some terrible things, and even just the chain is still used today by Warlord Zila to control the Protodrakes for Gerarch's army. Now you know how the Earth Warden Neltharion became Deathwing. The point of Deathwing's story is that he became as corrupted as could be. He was a master manipulator and he dreamed of ruling the world and the other aspects. This dream slowly transformed into a dream where he would just destroy all life, but it does show that even the aspects can be corrupted. He plotted many schemes, even transported some of his ex to Outland, and he took on the human form of Devil Prestor to manipulate the human affairs. He infiltrated the Alliance and he even managed to get King Tyrannus to engage him to his daughter. Yes, Arthas' sister, Kaelia Manifil, was planned to be wed to Deathwing. This would have all gone through was it not for Deathwing's defeat at Grim Battle, which destroyed the Demon Soul, restored the power of the aspects, and forced Deathwing to hide and recover in Deepholm. During the Cataclysm, we traveled through time to get the Demon Soul back, because it has been destroyed in our time, and the Demon Soul was used to defeat Deathwing and prevent the Hour of Twilight. Deathwing's prime consort, which is like his main mate amongst the dragons, was Sinfaria, also known as Sinestra or Lady Sinestra. After Neltharion's madness overtook him, the newly disfigured Deathwing attempted to mate with its consorts, causing Sinfaria a great deal of pain and leaving behind scars and burn marks. Now not just regular scars, no, these wounds would burn and cause her pain for the rest of her life. Can you imagine mating with Deathwing? Anyway, Sinfaria was the only mate known to have survived, and some of her well-known children are Nefarian, Onyxia and Sabilion. Sabilion was amongst the eggs that Deathwing transported to Outland. She is not the mother of Wrathion, but we'll get back to that later. First, let's take a quick look at what Onyxia and Nefarian have done. Onyxia took on the name of Lady Katrana Prestor and infiltrated the nobles of Stormwind. She was the one who advised the nobles to not pay the stonemasons, which caused them to rebel, and this led to the death of Wrathion, his wife. She was the one who orchestrated the kidnapping of Wrathion and his entire story until he returned to Stormwind. She was also the one who kidnapped Anduin and took him to a lair, when eventually they figured out that she was the Black Dragon Onyxia. Nefarian took on the name of Lord Victor Nefarius and he infiltrated the Dark Horde who lived in the Blackrock Mountains. He conducted experiments with the blood of the different dragonflights and he created the chromatic dragons. We killed him in Classic of course, but he was resurrected and returned in the Cataclysm to be taken down once again.
Let the games begin.
See how both of them didn't just outright go dragon form and kill everybody? Notice how they prefer to manipulate, rule behind the curtains and let their enemies weaken themselves before taking action. This is something the Black Dragonflight are masters at doing, and keep this in mind as we look at the story of Wrathion. We are the ones that created Wrathion and it all began in the Badlands. You're sent to bring some supplies to a goblin named Ria. Ria then asks of you to gather wild black dragon eggs and black dragon whelp corpses. This seems like a strange request, but it turns out that Ria is actually Riastraza, a red dragon sent by Alexstrasza to find a cure for the corruption of the black dragons. She has captured Nyxandra and she's forcing her to lay eggs over and over again. Cruel? Perhaps, but not nearly as cruel as the treatment that their dragonflight showed my mistress. By this she means, well, one example would be the time that Deathwing pointed the orcs to the demon soul. The orcs then used the demon soul to enslave Alexstrasza and force her to mate, lay eggs, and those children would become mounts for the orcs. Anyways, you then go and pick up 3 of Nyxandra her eggs, but she does put up a fight, so you need to beat her into submission before you can steal the eggs. You then take the 3 samples to Dr. Hieronymus Blem. He, unfortunately, finds traces of corruption in all 3 samples, but he has an idea. It's a long shot, but you're sent out to Dustwind Dig, where the Explorers League has discovered a new set of Titan ruins. The Titans are rumored to have created the dragons, so there might be something in there that can cleanse the corruption. You eventually find the device and you bring it to the doctor.
Off and away!
Anomaly detected means that the device has picked up the deep corruption of the old gods and he managed to cleanse it. Now there is the first uncorrupted black dragon egg since millennia. Of course Deathwing and his flight are not happy with this and you're sent out to take them out before they find the egg and destroy it. Even Nyxandra managed to escape and sadly you have to kill her. After all of this, Ria invites you to the hidden clutch where the egg has been hidden. Deathwing was not happy and he burned everything. Ria, the purified egg, all of it. You enter the cave to check if Rhea miraculously evaded Deathwing's flames, but all you find is a note. Heroes, if you are reading this, then my suspicions were correct. Deathwing has found us. The egg is destroyed, as am I. This was actually the plan from the beginning. You see, the egg that Deathwing destroyed was not the egg he sought. It was mine. The egg Rhea held in her hands was one of her own, and the doctor had already sent the purified egg away. He gives you Rhea's last egg, which says, please, take care of him for me. For 6 months we don't hear a thing about the egg, until the rogue legendary questline leads us to the Twilight Highlands. The egg was hidden there, but it was stolen by the thieves of Ravenhold. Mostras, a red dragon, takes you to Ravenhold to get the egg back.
Let's move out, friend. There's no time to lose.
Fun fact, by the way, I recorded this on my laptop.
Is understandably upset.
I recorded this way back when I started with making videos on my little laptop. It was glorious. Which explains the graphics and the quality.
Under her care was the one black dragon egg that we believe was free of the taint of Deathwing's corruption. And it was stolen away from us by thieves in the night. You've found for us our only lead. The rogues from Ravenhold are behind this. Ravenhold? It just doesn't make sense. A mongrel band of petty thieves? How did they even know about the egg? We'll get to the bottom of this. Someone with your skills is exactly what we need. What's the expression? To catch a thief, they say? Hmm?
That's right, mortal. The prize you seek no longer sleeps within a shell. Here I am, in the flesh. I'm not some trophy for a red dragon's mantelpiece, and I'm never going back. Don't look so surprised. We dragons are conscious, even within our shells. As I grew, I could hear the plotting and scheming. I was to be born a prisoner. But I'm one of a kind. A black dragon raised free from the taint of my father's corruption. And that's how I intend to stay. Free. Somehow, you managed to elude all of my guards. You slipped in here like a ghost. That makes you valuable to me. Let's talk.
Your Highness, we caught this beast snooping around the caves just outside the compound.
I'm not afraid of you! Wait, who are you?
You don't recognize your former prisoner?
Shall we execute him, my prince?
No. I want him to deliver a message to the Red Dragonflight. Tell them that I am free of my father's madness, and I will be free of them as well. I am to be left alone. This will be my first and only warning.
But Deathwing's minions may have you killed.
Deathwing's minions should be afraid of me. Get him out of here!
Ugh!
And Farad?
Yes, sir.
Break his legs.
I love that scene so freaking much.
Now then, my new friend, we have much to talk about. As you know, black dragons frequently disguise themselves as humanoids in order to tamper with mortal affairs. While the house of my mad father collapses around him, the few remaining black dragons have gone into hiding. But I can still sense them. My cowardly brothers and sisters will cause untold suffering if we allow them to stay in the shadows. Moreover, They are a threat to me.
Greetings. Go with honor, friend.
That is where you come in. Help us to slay them all, and I will reward you handsomely.
The egg is hatched and a badass Wrathion is born. He is pissed about what the red dragons did, but he's more concerned about his own dragonflight. He is the first and so far only uncorrupted black dragon, and he sends you to assassinate each and every one of them, including his own father.
It is done, friend. To my knowledge, I am the only black dragon who remains.
He says that to his knowledge, all of them are dead, but this is simply not true. An easy example is Sabellian, who can still be found in Outland. Blizzard has explained that although he has a connection to his brothers and sisters of the Black Dragonflight, he isn't all-knowing, and it is very possible that he can't sense the Black Dragons on a different planet.
I must go now. Disappear. Perhaps we will meet again. I hope we find ourselves on the same side. With the last of the Black Dragonflight destroyed, my destiny was in my own hands. I left the assassins of Ravenholt behind to seek my destiny elsewhere. There are rumors of a new land beyond the mists of the sea.
He found a land covered by mists, as did we, and he once again has legendary rewards for those willing to help him.
Very good. Let's talk. Tong, drinks please. My father, Deathwing, tried to destroy the whole of Azeroth. He was misguided, of course, but he was right about one thing. Our world is so fragile. We are a point of light in a universe of shadow, a candle in a tempest. And sometimes I think it was the very precariousness of our world that drove my father to madness. Ah, thank you, Tong. Now to my point. I believe we are headed towards a reckoning. And no, I am not talking about the current conflict between the Alliance and the Horde. Believe me, what Garrosh Hellscream achieved in Theramore is nothing compared to the horrors that are even now bearing down on our fragile home. But the war deeply troubles me. Do you see my concern? A divided Azeroth cannot possibly stand against the darkness. This war has to end, soon, before it consumes our strength. I want you to know that your alliance has my full and unwavering support in this campaign. How do we bring a swift and decisive end to the conflict? I believe the answer lies with heroes like you. We must ensure that you are up to the task, and then equip you accordingly.
He has seen a vision of the Burning Legion returning, and he's concerned that the divided Azeroth will not be able to stand against the might of the Burning Legion. He also tells each faction that his allegiance lies with them, no matter if the Horde or Alliance. And so follow the events of Pandaria, of which I already made videos going into details. He judges you, judges your faction's leader, creates a lance, tells you to kill the Thunder King, uncovers the Seekers of the Titans, eats a Titan's heart, and he seeks the blessing of the 4 Celestials of Pandaria. During their challenges, the image of Deathwing appears.
Let the challenge begin! Hero, you must defend the Black Prince while he faces his inner turmoil.
I am a black dragon. I won't need any help.
Is that so? You are filled with doubts and fears, young prince. Face your inner demons. Now is the time.
What? Wait. Father? Please, don't make me do this.
But is Deathwing truly his father? Remember that Sinfaria is the only black dragon who has survived mating with Deathwing. It was the egg of Nyxandra that was used in the creation of Wrathion's egg, so we can be fairly certain that she was his mother. But we also used 3 other things. A wild black dragon egg, the corpse of a black dragon whelp, and this strange titanic device that removed the old god's corruption. A possible explanation could be that the egg was the egg of Sinfaria. The whelp was the son of Deathwing, or he refers to Deathwing as his father, because Deathwing is like the godfather of all black dragons. Of course, you could also think that Blizzard messed up, and Wrathion would be a lot less interesting if he wasn't related to Deathwing, but it's up to you to decide what is true. A couple of you also said or asked, can Wrathion be trusted?
What are you talking about? I don't trust you. You are wise not to.
Remember how good the Black Dragonflight is at manipulating, and notice how Wrathion is playing both factions like a boss. I did a theory video a while back on Garrosh, Wrathion and Anduin, and it would be amazing if it would come true, but I'm terrible at guessing. I think the simple answer is that Wrathion is an Earth Warden. As long as we are useful in the preservation of the world, he won't kill us. There is no doubt in my mind that when the moment comes that we stand in the way of the good of Azeroth, that he will hunt us down and kill us one by one.
Pandaria is indeed a jewel. Such beauty. It makes you want to protect her, yes? I feel the same way about Azeroth herself.
I hope now you understand the limits of strength without vision. It is one thing to change the world, but quite another to do what is right. Young Prince, I hope you take this lesson to heart.
I am pleased that our hero is still alive. Thank you for your blessing, mighty tiger.
Notice how he doesn't accept the wisdom of the White Tiger, and I think that defines him. The good of Azeroth, the good of the world above everything else, even doing what some might not consider to be right. Some have asked how Wrathion compares to the other aspects since they're now mortal, and I think this is a little bit tricky. Wrathion is something unique, yeah? He's an uncorrupted black dragon created with the use of an unknown titanic device. I don't think he has the same powers as his father had, but he is very powerful. I think you could compare him to the aspects, now that they are mortals, but he isn't an aspect. He wasn't granted titanic powers like the original aspects have received, and he didn't go through a power transfer ritual like Kalecgos did. Also, for clarification, Thrall, as he teamed up with the aspects to defeat Deathwing, also never truly became an aspect himself. The final question you guys asked me was, what will happen next? Once again, I'm terrible at guessing, but if I have to, for the legendary quest, I think we go back to the engine of Nalashka. That's the location where Lei Shen found Raden, and that's also the location where he took his powers. It's the location where Lorewalker Cho had his moment of clarity, much like Wrathion did during the 5.3 questline. What did Lorewalker Cho see there, and what was Raden trying to do that kept him in there for so long? Is that perhaps the location of the final Titan? It's either that location or something completely new that opened up in 5.4. As a reward, I think we will upgrade our cloaks. There have been some data mined class specific legendaries at the very beginning of MoB, but I mean, he says we're going to augment the cloak, so I'm going to trust his word on this one.
Very soon, we will be able to augment your cloak with my own formidable draconic powers.
Then, for the next expansion, all we know is that the Burning Legion is returning, and we're not even certain if it's the next expansion or the one after that.
Great Crane, you have not seen what I have seen.
You underestimate me.
The fires that once burned the sky will return. It is inevitable. The Burning Legion will find Azeroth. Seas of blood, cities in ruin. Who are we, one divided world, to stand against a legion? You speak of hope. Believe me, the thinnest sliver of belief that we might somehow survive the coming devastation is all that sustains me.
At this point in time, it could be anything, and more will become clear at BlizzCon. Question remains, will Wrathion at some point listen to the same whispers as his father had? Like I said, he isn't an aspect, and yet he is an Earth Warden. Old gods can corrupt even the most pure beings, so anything goes, and Anduin, his beloved companion, might one day become our enemy. I hope you all enjoyed
my video. If you liked it, then why don't you click on all my other videos? You know, you could drop a like and maybe leave a comment. That would help me out greatly. It's kind of cool to look back at these videos and notice how well Legion fits Mist of Pandaria. All the hints that were dropping, and only when we got to the Timeless Isle, the very last patch, only then did we make the connection to Warlords of Draenei with the whole time travel bit. It's awesome to see. Somebody asked me, like, what did they have in mind? They had two expansions in mind, Legion and Warlords, and it was pretty much like a toss-up, like which one do we want to go with. And I believe that they went with Warlords in order to promote the Warcraft movie. Right? Makes a lot of sense, very much connected to the Warcraft movie, whereas Legion is very much connected to the overall storyline. I think that's what happened there. And somebody asked, like, do we have an explanation what Wrathion exactly was trying to do with freeing Garrosh and Warlords of Draenor? I got a feeling that they were trying to maybe get alternate troops to help us out. Something like that they had that in mind. But it's all been cut out, it's been ripped out, and you're left with Warlords of Draenor as a whole, which, the only thing that came out of there was Gul'dan coming to our reality to bring Illidan back. So yeah, unfortunately not that much of information that came out of, or at least not so much of a story development that came out of Warlords. I think they had more in mind, I think they had more in planned. So yeah. Now, ladies and gentlemen, back to the story, back to what we're trying to discuss here, the whole Titan thing. What we can see is that Wrathion, he's seen the devastation, right? The Legion is on his way, and the world has to get ready to defend the planet once more. Notice, like I just said, how well Mr. Pandaria fits Legion. Now, I don't believe that Legion will be that final confrontation against the darkness, against Sargeras. That's not on the table, in my opinion. But it's going to be one hell of a conflict for sure. The world's going to be burning, it's going to be freaking epic. They have decided, we did that, very disconnected. Right, now Anduin Wrynn, Wrathion's companion and friend. He has received a prophecy from Prophet Velen, which might shine a light on what the future is going to bring, and might also explain why Wrathion has become so buddy-buddy with the future Prince of Stormwind. So here we go, this is the prophecy. Instead of the prince, an armored warrior stood before him, his plate helm and breastplate shining with the essence of the light itself. The warrior wielded a sword forged from the same material as the armor, held it aloft as he perched on an outcropping. Whether it was on another world or Azeroth, Velen couldn't quite tell. And suddenly, the dark sky above erupted with the combined chivalry of Azeroth's races. The Blood Elves, Orcs, Trolls, Tauren, and even the accursed undead and scheming goblins rode flying mounts of every sort and description. They were armored and armed in magical weaponry, glowing with so much power, it hurt Velen's eyes to look at them. Besides the legion of the Horde, the ancient Night Elves charged with humans, dwarves and gnomes, whose ancestors formed the original alliance, and the shape-changing Worgen were united with them. Velen's own Draenei bolstered the army, their ranks adorned in otherworldly metals and bearing crystalline masons and swords. The Alliance and Horde were not alone. Dragons swooped and soared in formation that made the sky resemble a giant multicolored reptilian wing. They blanketed the horizon with their physical size and numbers, and when they roared a challenge, it shook not just the earth Velen stood on, but the universe as well. And yet, for all this, the greatest shock to Velen's senses came as he saw those that flew just beyond the army of dragons. The Naru had taken the field, so many that Velen didn't understand how creation could contain them. The power of these beings of light filled Velen's heart with hope, swept away the lonely centuries. I always loved that line. And left him in wonder that he could ever despair, that the dark, no matter how terrible, could ever truly reign. And then his shadow fell. It was vast and empty, and swallowed all light that entered it. Velen knew it would be all-consuming, until at last it would turn and devour itself, endlessly gnawing on nothing in the great dark beyond, removing all meaning from the universe, from the most heartbreaking sonata to the most arresting sunset. It was too terrible to see, to comprehend, and yet the army headed straight for it, and the lights began to fade. Now, if this prophecy comes true, Anduin will one day lead the army of light against the darkness. So, I don't think it's coincidence that Wrathion made sure to become buddy-buddy with Anduin. He is, after all, a master manipulator, and he has seen the Legion coming. The way that the battle is described, like I said, it doesn't seem like it's the upcoming battle against the Legion within the expansion called the Legion. It seems like there's a great darkness in the universe. Maybe they're talking about Sargeras, maybe they're talking about some force even greater. And It seems like all elements of Azeroth, all the little pieces placed on the board by the Titans, from humans to elves to the Horde to the Alliance to the Naru to the dragons to everything we've got on Azeroth is going to be forced to fight against the shadow, the darkness that Velen has seen. Now Anduin leading the army makes you wonder like, what the frick, why is everybody gonna listen to Anduin? But regardless, it's still very, very cool. Hang on, what's happening? What's happening? Am I missing something? Okay, I see it. Right. So, you know, I hope that they one day save this battle for an RTS that will actually see these massive amounts of troops on the battlefield and win an Armor of Light. Everybody holding their artifacts like, roar, we're gonna fight now. But that's, you know, that's my crazy theory concluded. So in the end, long story short, you know, I think this picture says it all. I think it says it all. You know, Titans, they foresaw it, man. They foresaw Sargeras falling to the darkness. They knew that they needed to get some troops. And mark my words, Prophet Noble has spoken. End of Legion, Titans are gonna be swooping down and they're gonna be like, yo, come with me if you wanna live. And we're gonna go into outer space. And we're gonna have some massive space adventures. Trust me on this. No, but seriously, it's awesome if you look at all the storylines in Warcraft and you try to connect them all. You can see reason in the madness. Now, of course, there is no original plan set up. This story is built up and changed and retconned over the years. This is not a solid theory, but that's not what we do during Tides of Lore. Tides of Lore is to sit down, let your little lore heart grow and just speculate and spit some crazy theories. So, beloved chat room, I'm going to wrap this up for YouTube and then I'll get back to you. YouTube, thank you very much for watching, everyone. As always, if you like my videos, then by all means subscribe. You can also leave a like, they do definitely help the channel. Leave a comment down below. What do you think of this theory? Do you think the Titans have an overall plan? Do you want to poke some holes in it? Whatever. Leave a comment. Would love to hear what you have to say. As always, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. And until next time, guys. See ya! Hello, chat room. Hello. That was for the YouTube ending. Hello. How all doing? Right, we can turn this one off. We can go into the game. We can turn... Oh no, I forgot the last video. Oh, hang on, I forgot something. Hang on. I was going to end this with like a sick thing. We're still gonna do it, damn it. We're gonna do it, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to end this. And then we're gonna come back to the chat room. We're going to end this with a beautiful video. Hang on. Hang on, I'm not done yet. YouTube, we're not done yet. Hang on, I'm gonna set this up. We're not done yet. Right, so. Correction. This whole beautiful storyline. Hey. There we go. This whole beautiful storyline connected to the Titans. It all comes down to one thing. Which is the final battle against Sargeras. But before that moment, the next expansion, ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for it? Because more pieces of the puzzle are coming together. We're going to see the continuation of the Mist of Pandaria storyline. And that is told within, hang on, where did I put it? There I did. That's going to be told in this one. It's all fucked up now. There we go. Enjoy!
On Draenor, old rivals sought to bring Azeroth to its knees. And while the Iron Tide was quelled, they were but servants of a more ancient foe that has not forgotten our defiance. The vengeance of the Burning Shadow has come. And in our most desperate hour, we must wield the power of the enemy against them. For we stand once more upon the brink of destruction. The Burning Legion.